Okay, had a little bit of trouble there with my antivirus program. Didn't like the when the night comes for some reason. Uh, that's not what we wanted. Okay. Wait, did I not save? I didn't save what we finished last week. Lovely. That's the one that we picked, alright. Okay. For some reason, I did not save it. And here we go. Back at now we're starting with chapter 4. Like I said we would. Okay. So quick recap. For people who haven't aren't aware, When the Night Comes is an urban fantasy visual novel. Basically, you're a hunter, and your job is to take care of creatures like demons, vampires, werewolves, etc., who threaten human lives. And some take that to mean any creatures like that, whether they threaten people or not, need to be put down. Other hunters are more honorable, and as long as they don't threaten people, they leave well enough alone. Um, so this character that's on the screen, August, is your enforcer, basically your handler. And they're the ones who hand out assignments, basically. August in particular is basically, from my understanding, the second in command in this little town that you've ended up in called Lunaris, hence the name of the company Lunaris Games. But you realize there is something rotten in Lunaris. And you've just been caught rifling through August's files, looking for information on the previous enforcer that was called to Lunaris, who got herself arrested. So August has just admitted that they have some confessions to make. Their pronouns are they, them. My apologies for misgendering them. I try not to, but sometimes I slip up. Anyway, I can hear the rush of my blood pounding in my skull as I take a seat, my heart trying to escape the restrictive cage of my ribs as I stare my enforcer down. August's fingers are visibly trembling. All color has drained from their skin. I'm fearful that they might faint. And yes, I'll try to get through chapter 4. No, I will get through chapter 4. Depending on how long it takes me, I may do chapter 5 as well. That's a maybe, though. I'm not promising anything. They draw in a shuddering breath and reach for one of the drawers in their desk, pulling out a vial that glows a vivid lavender. I recognize it from the very first time I met them back in Ezra's shop, which strangely feels like forever ago. The way they demanded it from him was with a desperation that I haven't seen in them since, but it stuck with me nonetheless. At first I think they might pop the cork and swallow it whole, their eyes hungry as they shake it, watching the viscous liquid swirl and brighten. They don't, though. Instead, they place it in the middle of the desk. They proceed to sit on their hands, and I gather this is a precautionary measure to prevent themselves from indulging. What is this? They clear their throat, unable to meet my concerned gaze. This is what I've been reduced to. Is there gay this to you? They nod, and I reach for the vial. They watch intently, their throat bobbing as they swallow thickly. The room flares to life as I pop the cork, and August shifts from their seat. It smells fragrant, almost citrusy. It's certainly not as unpleasant as I anticipated. May? It's interesting. If you choose to go to the festival with August, you see this their magic all over their office earlier, and August admits at the time that they are ashamed of the fact that they can't control their magic, and or stop it or something. I forget exactly what the phrasing is, and the hunter's like, so don't. And August is like, say what? And basically, the hunter's like, magic is part of you. You shouldn't have to hide it or try to control it. And this is a very lovely, sweet moment between the hunter and August. And I wish I could have showed it. I mean, I could have, but I didn't. You know what I mean? But that's why I'm not doing every single romance option, because I want people to buy the game and play it. So me dropping these little snippets is just me encouraging people to go buy it. I look around the room, now understanding how such a display is possible. What does it do exactly? I feel a crackle in the air, an obvious shift in tension. I gesture towards the vial and lay it back on the desk, and I lay it back upon the desk. Therefore, this affords me the ability to replenish my mana to put myself to use wherever required. Oh, so it's a mana potion. Got it. Psionic abilities such as my own are rare, so I am required quite often. There are quite obviously side effects, so your health is more important than your notoriety, August. They seem taken aback by that statement, maybe even a little embarrassed. Yes, and I see that now. August. I blanch at that. Those words coming from August's mouth seem unreal. It's a casually honest statement, painfully honest even, and certainly not something that I could imagine the enforcer I met just a week ago daring to utter. Piper, the murders, we need to go back to the start, examine the root. The root being the agency, the enforcers. With a small nod, they lift their eyes to the ceiling, speaking their next words with great effort. Yes, the enforcers. Then why bring me here? That I cannot answer. I wish I could. So this is a case where we will eventually be able to ask about those. But we're more interested in Piper at this point. You mentioned that you didn't want Piper to be demoted, so what happened? Their gaze flickers to the side, staring out the window at the snowy street. After Aya's arrest, Piper became unsettled, rightfully so, now I look back. And, whoops, hang on. Like rumors are offering them an apologetic grin. I was too infuriated to truly think straight, and before I got the chance to defuse the situation, Harry caught wind. I regret the way I dealt with it. Piper was a good friend before this mess began. I should have helped her. I let her down. Their day seems mine, and they somehow seem more concerned for me than they are for themselves. You and Piper, you were friends? Hard to believe now, I know. Yeah. But yes, we were close enough for her to convince me to arm wrestle her. They absent-mindedly rubbed their elbows as they're nursing an old injury. Don't do that. Ever. The way they light up when they talk about such memories doesn't go unnoticed. I feel a pang of sorrow for their lost friendship. They both seem like they could do with such company in their lives, and now I understand why they're noted as being so prolific as a team. You should speak to her and clear the air. The look they throw me is less than convincing. Yay. I truly valued our friendship, and I've been cruel to her in my mission to please Harry. That ends now. I love it. I love that they acknowledge that they screwed up. I mean, Piper was screwed up just um, in her own way, but August is the one who's really hurt the relationship. And I'm glad that they acknowledge their part in it. Tell me about Aya. They rest their elbows upon the desk, steepling their fingers. There's not much to tell, really. She transferred here only a few months ago. We barely became acquainted when she was arrested, so Piper took a liking to her. So apparently not what I was thinking. I thought there may have been something there between Piper and Aya, but there wasn't. A small smile crosses their lips. They worked well together, and I finally got to catch up on the ridiculous amount of paperwork I'd accrued during my time spent in the field with Piper. Why were you in the field? I contemplate that for a moment, for any peak in activity is usually for a reason. It's been worse the past few years. Not always this bad. Keep that in mind. That little negative information, keep it in mind. They shake their head. Not always, but it almost seems normal now. I make a mental note to remember this to try later. So her arrest. One day she's just gone, no explanation. It was reported that she went on an unsanctioned hunt. I wasn't aware, and neither was Piper. We never saw her again. I reach for the papers that sit upon the desk between us, Harry's signature as clear as day. You didn't question it? An uncomfortable shift, a squirm almost. I did not. You don't question Harry. He's given me no reason to. I watched him carefully, the furrow in their brow deepening, as they quite clearly second-guessed their own statement. Something isn't right here, and Aya's situation feels too convenient to me. Don't you agree? With a sharp inhale, they sit back in their chair. A little of the tension seems to melt away, but the sadness still lingers. I do. August pushes away from their desk, swiping the still glowing vial as they stand. They cradle it gently in their palm before it shifts firmly into the drawer from where it came. What next? What can we do? I think you should speak to Piper. She might know more than me, especially after her snooping. I stand too, my touch lingering upon those discharge papers. I want to go into the dungeons. I want to see her. They avert their gaze, cheeks rosy, their frustration evident. They thoughtlessly slide their hand across the back of their chair, cutting me a sympathetic stare. I can't have a repeat of what happened with Piper, Michelle. So, we're not going to go with the middle option. We're going to go with the first or last option. And we're going to let the dice pick. I may as well just pull up my dice at the beginning of the session, right? Okay, so odd number will go with the first option, even number will go with the third option. That's the 2, so we go with the last option. I wring my hands, feeling restless. I'm ready to spring into action as an idea plants itself firmly in my skull. I have a plan. Oh, really? Well, do tell. I laugh, quiet and sharp. I'm not sure it's a good idea, but I tell you. They run their hand over the front of their shirts, standing a little taller. Especially if there could possibly be consequences for me, too. That's fair. You're right. This has the potential to harm both of us if it doesn't work. Fine, but you're not going to like it. You may not approve, but we have a few allies that probably know the dungeons better than any hunter or enforcer ever could. The dramatic and sudden roll of their eyes tells me they know exactly who I'm talking about. You want me to enlist a bunch of vampires to help us break into the enforcement dungeons? Not a bunch, just one. Vince has lived in this town longer than literally anyone. August stops, loudly. Lived. He's as dead as a door now. Hot and dead. So you're just going to walk into the dungeons, cast me in tow, and hope not to get caught? I smile at their obvious distaste for my plan. Ezra, Piper, even Alka, they can all help too. Do I have your permission to proceed? A pregnant pause follows my question, but eventually August meets my gaze once more. You have my permission. But please be cautious. I am no wiser than you here, and I cannot protect you if something goes wrong. Well, so we'll get a little August backstory. We'll get a bit more later. Their words grow terser as the seconds pass, unraveling gradually. I gather that August has suffered through much frustration, and life has weathered them to the bone. They quickly gather themselves. I won't let you down. I don't doubt that, actually. So I realize I have a habit of clicking ahead before I finish reading the line, and since it's partially voiced, that means that they're talking over me. So I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to finish speaking and then click ahead. I head back to my room at the Wolf to clear my head and try and figure out my hastily concocted plan a little more thoroughly. Thoughtfully, I stay up pondering the fact that we still haven't been given the name of the latest victim, and I wonder if Harry is keeping it from me for a reason. After my conversation with August, everything feels wrong. A quick, sharp pain rises in my temples. I feel that familiar presence lurking. Despite that, it appears that no voices will visit me tonight. Because apparently nothing is secret in this town, I managed to coax Piper's address out of Edna with very little persuasion. I head across the street, unsurprised that she lives so close to the tavern and as far away from headquarters as possible. Her house is small, but it appears to have character, much like its owner. I take a deep breath, and I knock. She looks surprised to see me, but her expression quickly softens. Oh, by the way, the official Twitter for Lunaris Games has been posting little tidbits about the various love interests for when the night comes to help promote the revamp. And so for Piper's, I replied talking about how I really enjoyed the Piper romance, and that even when you don't romance her, you develop a really good friendship with her, and I really loved that. And the voice acting just made that so much better. I mean, I loved it in the original version, and then in the revamp, just having her voice there to just I don't know, just adds a little more dimension to it, and I really love that. And the voice actor for Piper not only liked my reply, but also retweeted it. So I was just like, yay! I'm just so happy. So that was really fun. That kind of it didn't make my week, but it certainly made a somewhat stressful week slightly better. It's an existential crisis, my lips. I definitely don't think this is a conversation to be had on the street. Can we talk? Oh, sorry, of course, come in. Yeah, it's been difficult trying not to flirt because to I like to pick the third options just for the fun of it. Even if I'm not gonna follow through. But it also feels like I'm kind of leading them on. So if I'm not gonna romance them, I tend not to pick the third options. But sometimes it's just really hard. Let me just check. The house is warm and inviting. The walls adorned with an abundance of gorgeous weaponry. The various plants and brightly colored pillows glitter the room. Gorgeous weaponry. It's Piper. Of course, she's got weapons all over the place. Your home is beautiful. Thank you. I have been lucky, really. I know not all hunters catch a break like I have. Plus, real estate in this shithole is cheap. Yeah, I would imagine so. We share a laugh. I can't help but feel a sense of urgency to discuss things with her. But it says now is not the time for pleasantries or stalling. Cutting straight to the chase is the only way. I have some news about Aya. Her eyes widen, looking to the side, away from me. Aya? I pull the sash from inside my coat and present it to her, but I'm quick to reassure. This was Son of the Woods, but that doesn't mean she could still be alive, Piper. This has clearly been out there for a while. She reaches out and runs her hand over the ruined fabric, her fingers shaking. With a deep inhale, she withdraws, turning to sit upon the arm of the sofa. Why are you here? She looks so sad, like she's only thinking the worst. I don't blame her, and I can't imagine how frustrated she must feel with the hand she's been dealt. I wanted you to know that I spoke to August last night. They were quite honest with me about everything, really. Oh? They were, hmm? I offer her a smile, trying to catch her gaze. I may or may not have been caught doing exactly as you did. You didn't. I nod, feel a little smug now that the fear of being reprimanded by my enforcer has dissipated. I bump into August Wilhelm's office members to tell the tale. I shrug, brushing it off. I'm grateful that the mood has shifted to something that feels a little lighter. You know, August regrets how everything happened. They seemed wistful, I think. They miss your friendship. She frowns deeply, fiddling with the edge of her tunic. I mean, I don't blame Piper. That their friendship seemed really strong, and to have that betrayed, just that will always hurt. See, I nod because I do know. Whatever lies within us that grants us our abilities is something we cannot shake or ignore. If we sense someone is in pain or they're scared, we feel it in kind. If we love fully. If we can feel that something feels off, it usually is. They employ us to do what we do for a reason. I wish they'd have a better understanding of what or how we feel. She scoffs a quiet laugh, rolling her eyes and offering me a small smile. If only. Just as I suspected. Now that I'd like to see. Shit. Me too. I'll get you a front row seat if it ever happens, alright? Deal. Now, I have a proposition. Oh? Obviously, we're not going to pick the third option because we're not romancing Piper much as I love her. I want to go into the dungeons. She stares at me blank, expressionless. Just her reaction is just, the voice just adds to it. I love it. I throw her a look and she smirks. You're serious then? Well, Michelle, I'm impressed. So come on then. What's this plan? We're still putting the pieces together. You inspired me though. Get to know some good comes of my suffering, I suppose. Do you have any tips, any kinks you encountered on your journey? The fact that I didn't even get to the door would indicate that I failed pretty miserably, wouldn't you say? There are wards, there are guards. It's pretty impossible unless, well, you know Ezra, don't you? That witch is more than a pretty face. Speak to him, see if you can convince him to help. She's right. I've seen him use wards in his shop, from when I saw his magic the other day. You're a genius. She shrugs her fist. That's the most obvious statement I could have made. Duh. I love that. She doesn't even say, yes, I am, or anything. She's just like, duh? When you're ready, you know I've got your back. Always. Upon entering the shop, I find chaos. I spot Ezra frantically gesturing at Omen, the demon's tail tightly coiled, and wary of approaching him after a little incident yesterday, instead choosing to observe from afar. Yeah, for people who don't remember or haven't watched the previous one, we were talking to Omen, and he started to, he was nervous and worried about something. And when he starts to leave without explaining, you go to grab him, and he lets his glamour slip for a moment, and you get a glimpse of the demon underneath. And then he kind of, after a moment, he realizes what he's done, and he scurries off, leaving you a little shaken. I managed to catch Ezra's eye, and he throws me a sympathetic look. He's dressed, his hands full of bandages and potions. He mutters something quick and sharp under his breath to Omen, and then turns and stares at me with wide, sorry eyes as the witch disappears through his purple curtain. If I ask what's going on, will you give me an answer? The question seems to catch him by surprise. Then he looks away, his lips pursed. He doesn't seem to have forgotten his outburst with me yesterday, or his abrupt departure. Good. It isn't my intention to trip him with the reminder, but just as well that he remembers. Did you bring someone in who was hurt? Brown eyes snap to me almost instantly, and Omen moves a step between me and the entrance to Ezra's back room, then catches himself in the middle and forcibly drops his arms to his sides. He opens his mouth, stammers without speaking, then his shoulders droop in defeat. The little spark that might have caught on the bandage rolls in his hand, peters out. He licks his lips, a flick of his black tongue visible. Seems so eerily out of place on a face so painfully human in its distress. And since we're gonna romance Omen, we're gonna flirt. I haven't seen Omen this nervous before. In the admittedly brief time we've known each other, and his fear sets me on edge. Carefully and deliberately, so as not to spook him, yesterday's almost burn is still fresh in my mind. I step forward and put a hand on his arm, squeezing it gently. I'm sure our guests will be all right, as you're attending to them after all. Omen blinks at me, then smiles and leans into my touch, visibly relaxing. He's a beacon of warmth in the cold room. His power is drawn tight to his core. I feel it under the glamour and the convincing illusion of fabric under my arm, but he won't let it loose. Won't let it hurt me. Yes, you're right. Whoever they are, despite my gentle prod, he still presses his lips tightly together. For a moment, I fear I have caused him to clamp down again after all, but he takes a deep breath and very gently shakes me off. Another deep breath. Omen is steeling himself for something. I could see it. I decide to back off as well, giving him some space. He shoots me a glance, then hugs the items he's holding closer. When he speaks again, his voice is very soft. Hunter Dubois. No, Michelle, I have something I must tell you. I love that he chooses to not use your title, to speak to you as a friend. I'm listening. Omen smiles, though it's brief and weak, and also quick to disappear, like candlelight in a storm. His eyes lose focus as he begins to speak. Okay. His eyes flicker around the room almost nervously. I find myself straining to detect any eavesdropping presence, but there is none. Omen seems to find the same thing because his shoulders droop again. Duh. He sighs. Whoa, what? It takes me a moment to process what he said. Demon lore is plentiful and easily accessible when you're a hunter. Even in our early years at the Academy, we pored over detailed logs of their fiendish hierarchies, favorite vices to exploit, patterns of their appearances. I would damn well hope I know who the Lord of Hells is. Oh, that is very nice. Omen's brown eyes widen, his jaw goes slack in surprise. The glamour truly is something, and I'm starting to wonder if he learned it from the witch behind the curtain. It is? He coughs. Yes. Yes. Nope. No, it was not. Something else also hits me. Our sire? Omen bites his lip and looks away. Then he nods curtly, eyes looking to the door leading into the shop. Well then, does your father know that you're here? In the mortal realm? Can he find you? A terrible thought crosses my mind. The barren bodies, the hunters targeted. No! The vehemence of his denial is startling. Quickly I hold up my hands for peace, but Omen isn't paying attention. He's shaking his head vigorously, trembling. Okay, so let's watch this for a moment. Watch the transformation. So now we can see the hints at his demonness. The eyes and the flames. I forgot that happens. I was focused on reading the text. His brown eyes are glowing with fire as he stares at me pleadingly. Literal, simmering flames. I could feel the fire in his core, standing here, far enough away, and now that I know where it comes from, the familiarity makes sense. That's one hell of a secret to hold on to. And who is that in the back then? Still, this demon right here in front of me, so nervous and so afraid I might hate him, and so achingly endearing, takes priority. Thank you for telling me. Thank me? He blush! Blush, blush, blush! I nod slowly, hoping he sees how serious I'm being. This is no small secret to trust a stranger with. I smile. But then again, we aren't strangers, are we? There is a pause. And then Omen smiles as well, wide, genuine, and so very relieved that I want to come to him, give him a hug, anything. Yes, you're right. Thank you. That smile! Ah! Omen closes his eyes and says something too quiet for me to hear. Then he breathes in, breathes out, and slowly makes his way to the counter. He sets all the items in his arms down, there. With such deliberateness, I know he is doing so to calm his nerves. Something sneaks through still. I see a flicker of flame about his hair, an intensity to his aura. But only briefly. The pressure fades as Omen raises his head. He doesn't look at me as he speaks. Probably a good idea. Are you sure? Omen smiles at me over his shoulder, the curve of his mouth tense. Oh, okay, his sister. Got it. He drills off, staring into the distance for a moment. Then he shakes his head and makes for the door, only adding one last thing before he steps outside. Oh, wow. Hello. The second I lay my eyes on her, it's more than a little obvious that she truly is related to Omen, maybe even his twin, unless the glamour is simply fooling me. Ezra has a pulse carefully pressed to her dainty hand, a pile of gauze covered in a thick black ichor discarded upon the counter by his side. She blinks at me once, twice. Her eyes are big and brown, and every bit as earnest as Omen's. Hello. Her voice is disarmingly sweet, almost musical even. I smile at her politely, looking to Ezra for a little guidance. Elaine, this is Michelle. Michelle, this is Elaine, Omen's twin sister. Ah, yes. I assume Ezra was just as unaware of her existence as I am, but he's polite enough to stay calm and focused, as friendly and hospitable as ever. There's someone hurt, and he's going to take care of them. That's Ezra for you. It's nice to meet you, Elaine. Oh, you too. Elaine narrows her eyes at me for a brief moment, shaking her head. She looks terrified. She addresses Ezra, but she certainly keeps her eyes on me, on my weapon. Where is Armoros? Wait, Armoros? What? Why the fuck do you want Armoros? I look at Ezra, my confusion quite evident. Armoros? Ah, yes, that. Her face lights up when I say his name, but I gather that she doesn't fully understand my trepidation. Ezra turns to address the demon, patting her hand gently. He's just outside, and you're all healed up. But I don't think you should go and see your brother now. Okay, yes. Yes, I should. Ezra releases her, throwing me a sorry look over his shoulder as he turns to quickly dispose of the mess of medical supplies. It was lovely to meet you, Michelle. Her demeanor is delightful, and I'm still slowly processing exactly what her brother just told me. Yes, you too. She glances at me briefly before shyly averting her gaze, turning to meekly part the curtains that lead into the shop. The second she's gone, a tall, pale figure bursts through the back door. He looks shocked to see me, but quickly recovers. Is she healed? She's fine, and she's with her brother. I suggest you give them space for the time being. Ezra's words are final and somewhat stern, and Armoros quickly wilts under his vibrant green gaze, his eyes still slightly glowing from whatever magic he's just performed. I don't really know how to unpack all of this. What happened to her, and why are you so desperate to be by her side? I can answer the second question. I didn't even need the explanation from the game. He stares longingly at the curtain, Elaine's voice quiet on the other side. Then I remember the note on the stoop of the ibex, the little heart. This Hoa. Well, I'm courting her, you see. We're together. She was attacked last night by one that's been getting to your kind, I think. Ezra and I share a look, doing little to hide our shock. It's as in the creature? Armoros closes his eyes, sighing heavily. Then he nods. Yes. If you can tell us how to find it so we can take it out quick, that would be super. He looks at me, then back at Ezra, his throat bobbing as he swallows thickly. He's quite clearly battling with the idea of divulging any more information. So, are we going to encourage him, or are we going to push him? We're playing a nice hunter, so we'll encourage him. Making a mess at my desk here. There we go. Armoros, it's okay. You can trust us. We just want to help. There was a complaint about when the net comes that the characters don't use your character's pronouns all that often. And it's like, most of the time when they're talking to your character, they're talking to you, so they're using you pronouns. So I don't know what the complaint is. He sighs again, his shoulders sinking in defeat. I just want her to be safe. We can see you care for her a great deal, and we want that too. His ice blue eyes quickly flicker between each of us, and it's the most animated I've seen him. Why are you being nice to me, my sister and I? He trails off, almost looking right through me. If you have information about the creature, we need to know. People are dying, so I find it hard to hold your beliefs against you if you can offer assistance. Very well. Laura has been sneaking out at night as of late. That's not exactly uncommon for her, but at least she's doing more than satisfying her baser urges. Ezra looks away, covering a quiet cough with his hand. We don't have time to unpack all of that, but I'll store it away for later. What do you suspect? I suspect nothing. I know that she's feeding it, or something at least. Feeding it? She seems unfazed, startlingly so. She may seem cruel and cold, but Aurora has a good heart. She cares for the creatures and makes sure they're safe. Can I see Elaine now? Can you maybe elaborate a little on that first? He shrugs, sighing again. It is what it is. I don't dictate to her what she can and cannot do. I find myself losing interest in her preachings. I just want to keep Elaine safe now. Ideally, we'll leave this wretched place for good, but her and Omen have only just reunited. Would she be so quick to leave him? Maybe not. I think it's best for both of you to stay here and lay low. I'm not sure why the creature attacked her. It hasn't attacked anything inhuman so far. He looks at me, fixes my gaze, and with perfect confidence. How do you know? I mean, that's a good question. A chill rolls along my spine, but I shake it off. You're right. I don't. I'd really like to leave now. You can leave, but I need you to promise me something. He narrows his gaze. Go on. Watch Aurora, and the second you see her do anything out of the ordinary, you find me. I will ensure Elaine is safe. I swear to you that your cooperation is essential. I see Ezra shifting nervously out of the corner of my eyes, but I stand my ground. Omen continues to assess me. Fine, I will seek you out, and I will watch my sister. Farewell, Hunter. Which, that's one way to put it. Anticipate some commotion from behind the curtain. But I hear nothing but silence. Interesting is putting it lightly. How are you, anyway? I have a quick laugh because that question, feels far too casual for the amount of information I've digested in the last forever. Tired, confused, the usual. I suppose I haven't done much to help with that, have I? He seems genuine, and aside from his bad behavior yesterday, I have no reason not to trust Ezra. I spoke to August last night and Piper this morning. They know about the sash. Fear flashes across his features, but I quickly reassured him. It's fine, Ezra. They're on our side. They want to help. Even Gus? Yes, even August. I love that Ezra insists on calling them Gus. And he's probably the only one that can get away with it. Are you sure you're not magic? Because that seems like an impossible task. I shake my head profusely. No magic here. His smile grows, and he seems to relax exponentially. It's nice to see. Then let's talk. He takes a deep breath. Oh, wait, what, huh? Okay, I'm actually going to pause here. I need to take care of something, and I don't do much of it at once, so yeah, just give me a few. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. A little too much carbonation. Whew. Okay. You were an enforcer? I listened intently, taking all of this in. A little perplexed, a little caught off guard. Oh, oh boy. They took away all of my notes. Notes? He nods, glancing over at the kitchen counter. I may have had Piper retrieve them for me. If you'd like to take them, there's not much, but you're welcome to them. Yeah. Anything. Yes, I'll take them. He opens one of the kitchen drawers, pulling out a pile of parchment. Then he discards what looks like a fake wooden bottom. The notebook is nestled safely beneath it. Here. I tuck it away inside my jacket for later. So why were you so afraid to tell me this? You did nothing wrong. You were helping people. He offers me a sorry gaze, his brow furrowed, fingers curled into fists at his side. Oh boy, that's not good. Like not telling me who the latest victim is? Exactly. I wasn't even sure if I could trust Gus, but I wanted to so badly that I pushed my apprehension aside. You were right to trust them. They're on our side. They're scared too. Oh, Gus, I just want all of this to be over. What are we going to do? I smile, and Ezra's expression lights up. You have a plan? I have a plan. I'm going to need your help, along with a few of the others. Anything you need, I'm your guy. Well, magic-wise, anyway. Oh, laugh. I'm going to go back so we can hear it again. We share a laugh, and Ezra definitely seems more relaxed now, like a weight has been lifted off his shoulders. Piper and I are going into the dungeons to see if we can locate Aya. If we can talk to her, I think we might have a start. Everything leans back to when she was arrested, as far as I can tell. How on earth are you going to get down there without being caught? That's where you come in. It may involve you and August working together. Does Gus know about this little plan of yours? I grimace, waving my hand in a so-so gesture. Partially? By the way, his voice when you romance him, oh. Thank you, Ezra. Now, how can I find Finn? Why, a secret passageway, of course. You're in the right place. He bends down, kicking aside a colorful rug to reveal that hidden hatch. It creaks loudly when he opens it, a gust of cold, stale wind rising from his steps. Good to know. So yeah, looking at how much time has passed, I don't think we'll get to chapter 5. We'll finish chapter 4, definitely, but I think the rest of the chapters are going to be just one at a time. I nod, take a deep breath. I lower myself into the hatch, gazing up at him with a smile. See you around. The incessant drip, drip, drip of water guides me forward through the darkness. The stench of damp and decay fills my nostrils as I sink deeper into the corridors of the catacombs. The pitch-black path is long and winding, and the only sound I can hear is the tap of my boots on the wet stone. Eventually, I see candlelight flickering ahead, and it would appear that I finally found life. Well, kind of. I remember to look for the third door on the left, just as Ezra had instructed, but as I approach, I find it wide open. The peek inside and the stark contrast between the literal tomb outside and what I find is in what is most definitely Finn's quarters is astounding. So just appreciate this background. I love the dark wood and the gold accents, and you can see that he's an artist. And in fact, it looks a lot like the art in Ezra's background. So, And he's got a skull, candles all over the place. Oh, and look, we have paintbrushes here too, which is another indicator that Finn is an artist. Before I get the chance to take in the view, a cool breeze brushes past me, rustling my hair and sending goose flesh prickling across my skin. A small, darkly clad girl appears before me in a flash, her eyes as bright as crimson as they bore into me. She stands with her head tilted and a toothy grin causing dark lips. Are you lost, human? She stares me down, wide-eyed, and quite clearly trying to intimidate me, but she seems playful. I'm here to see Finn. She relaxes at the sound of his name, and her striking gaze sweeps over me like a caress. She shrugs, pursing her lips. So you're the one who won't shut up about, huh? Well, you do smell good, I guess. Smell good? Is Finn here? She licks her a fang, and I notice how similar some of her more human quirks are to his. She's far less poised than him, but I almost feel like that may be on purpose. I'm in Finn's territory here, neutral territory, the probably desire to be defensive, even though her eyes are the color of a creature who drinks human blood. Yeah, so that's the thing. And the vampires in this world, and the color of their eyes is affected by what they feed on, or who they feed on. And there's a reason that Finn's eyes are gold rather than crimson. He's somewhere here, around, doing stuff helpful. Her smile widens as she turns to poke at a crystal decanter of whiskey that sits nestled in the corner of one of his many bookcases. Are you part of the clan? A quick nod, almost too quick to catch. I am. She pours the rich amber liquid into a glass, swirls it, spins it with a dramatic grimace, and sets it aside untouched. Her nose is still crinkled in barely disguised disgust when she looks at me again. I wish that thing you're looking for would stop killing hunters, you know, because that means that more of your type will come. Then more enforcers, which is the last thing we need in this shitty town. I hear footsteps loud ones that echo up the stonework in the hallway. Michelle! I suspect he knew I was here, but his shock is charming nonetheless. He looks at the girl, who throws him a decidedly wicked, wolfish grin, with picture of innocence. The girl, Raven, shrugs, sidling up to him and resting her head on his shoulder. She rolls her eyes, but hard enough that I'm surprised don't fall back into her skull. Yes, Dad. Finn's face drops, his eyes narrowed. I get the impression that if he could blush, his cheeks would be the prettiest shade of pink. I stifle a laugh, and with obvious delight, Raven notices. Raven? She laughs to sound loud and obnoxious, but somehow still charming. She shoves him playfully, but Finn remains stern. Are you going to introduce me to your friend? The suggestive waggle of her eyebrows doesn't go unnoticed, and Finn sighs heavily, offering me an apologetic smile. Michelle, this is Raven. I'm his kid. There's a low, exasperated rumble of a warning in Finn's throat. I find myself enjoying the way he bristles in her presence. Finn throws her a death glare, and she proceeds to look guilty, but just a little. He raises a single dark brow at her, and after a quiet scoff, she enthusiastically steps forward and offers me her hand. It's really nice to meet you, Michelle. You being in town has given grumpy pants here something to do other than mope at least. Raven rolls her eyes, and I finally take her hand. Her grip is firm, and I wonder if she might be trying to unnerve me when her startling eyes widen exponentially. Hurt him, and I'll eat you. Got it? I open my mouth to respond, but before I get the chance, she's laughing again. Finn looks mortified, and he carefully pries her hand from mine and ushers her towards the door. It's time for you to go, I think. Raven pouts, raising both of her hands in defense. I was joking, obviously. I like them already. She offers me a little wave and rises onto her tiptoes to press a kiss to Finn's cheek. He looks at her with unabashed fondness, a small smile creeping onto his lips. Go, say hello to Lex for me, and be good. He runs his hand over her shorn scalp, and she swats at him playfully, scoffing much like a teenager would at an embarrassing parent. I'll do more than say hello. Bye, Michelle. He gives him another disapproving rumble, and Finn almost looks like he wants to chase her to administer another pep talk, but he stops himself. And with that, she's gone, the door slamming loudly and shaking in its frame. Finn groans, running an iron hand over his face as he walks to grab the whiskey Raven had poured him. She's interesting. She's your... He sips his drink. He takes a slow sip of whiskey, savoring the taste for a moment before he speaks. So, I prefer brother. Brother just makes me sound so old. His laugh. His laugh is charming. Yes, it is. Yes, old. She tends to look after me much more than I look after her. She's a good kid. I'd be lost without her. I nod, observing him quietly as he sets down his glass. Sire bonds are powerful, and it's interesting to observe such a casual, healthy dynamic. Do you choose to join her? He frowns, shaking his head. Well, no, not exactly. He smiles, half painfully earnest. He leans back against his desk. So, obviously, there's different ways we can approach this request. I have a plan, and I think I might need your help to execute it. He tilts his head, curiosity obviously piqued. A plan, hmm? You love those. Tell me, what can I do? Don't you want to know the finer details first? He shrugs, running his tongue over his bottom lip. Makes no difference to me. I trust you implicitly. If it means I can help you in any way, I am all ears. Just tell me where you need me. Okay? Sweet? Pepper and I are going to attempt to break into the dungeons beneath HQ. His pointy ears flicker, almost flattening against his head before they put themselves to rights. He can't seem to mask his surprise, nor his apparent interest. The dungeons, hmm? He whistles, scuffing his boot against the stone floor. I can help you, but I may have a favor of my own task if you're bold enough to venture down there. I narrow my eyes at him, contemplating if I want to tangle myself into yet another web. What is it? He pushes away from the desk, standing tall. His hands fall into fists at his side, his prosthetic flaring brightly before it fades into its usual dormant, dull glow. How do you know that they have him? I don't. They have an excellent defense system that prevents any of us from detecting him, no matter how close we manage to get. He would not just abandon us. He's either detained or dead, and if it's the latter, I just want to know. You're sure he wouldn't just leave? Your clan isn't like others. Maybe he wanted a change? He looks frustrated. He runs his fingers through his hair, leaving it messy. Oh, oh, baby. So we're gonna ask about Fiero first. Why do you think they would take Fiero specifically if you're so sure he's innocent? He shrugs, clearly quite confident in his theory. Because he's valuable. He's an impact, a powerful one. If he saw something he wasn't supposed to, even if they just managed to overpower him and get him alone, I rarely let my clan members patrol by themselves, regardless of our supposedly stable relationship with the enforcers of this town. I can talk, really. But I was stupid, and Fierro is a good sweet talker. He sensed someone in distress in the woods, so I allowed it. Therefore, if anything has happened to him, it's my fault. Then Finn prides himself on being the opposite of his sire, and I could see that this is eating away at him. You can't place the blame on yourself. You didn't know. Plus, if he is as valuable as you say he is, his eyes light up when they meet mine, fingers twitching upon the surface of the desk. Then they could be using him, so he's still alive. I smile in return, tilting my head this way and that. Well, ish. He laughs and I can't help but join him. So you'll text for me? I nod. I will. I mean, it's down there anyway. May as well. The information of Ben Cyrus bears outside of the fact that he was notorious and cruel. I wonder how such a seemingly kind man could have followed him for that long. Call it morbid curiosity. Do you mind talking about him? About Levi? Ben grimaces, folding his arms across his broad chest. His posture loses its usual confidence. I suppose. I take a seat upon his bed, and he pulls out his desk chair. The first thing I can think to ask him is loaded, but I need to understand. Why did you stay with him for so long? He looks at me wide-eyed for a beat before he manages to formulate a response. The wry smile crosses his lips, but then looks impossibly sad. What did he take from you? Jaws thickly, casting his gaze to the side. Okay, so we're gonna start from on. Go to Codex. So hunters, witches, vampires, and forces, demons, the chimera. Hey, what? So this is Omen, James Lang. This is the enforcer that died just before you were sent for. Destiny. This is about Piper. Raven. This is about Siren Raven. And this is Levi turning Finn after killing Gabriel. So there's way more entries. So these are, I believe, a lot of these are just short stories that they wrote because they were inspired. Yeah, so someone else, the developers hadn't really thought of how Armoros and Elaine met and became involved, just as they are. Did you ever try to escape when you found others? No. Ouch. Now he's dead, and you're free. Seem to be managing well for someone who endured all of that. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck with his iron hand. That sounds like a good choice to me. Smile as I observe him. I register how comfortable I feel in his home. The thought of stepping into the den of the clan before all of this may set me on edge, but now, you're doing a great job, Finn. His mouth curls into an earnest grin. Thank you, Michelle. I give you permission to kick my ass if I ever dare to step out of line. Duly noted. So what is it that you'd like me to do exactly? Well, no one knows the thing quite as well as you. I was hoping you'd have some secret little passageway tucked away for me to use. There are wards and other natural tricks in place to stop people like you, like us, getting in. Don't worry about that. Now about that passageway, his grin is wicked, and I think I have my answer. I'm your guy. Just say when, and I'll be there. If you need anything else, just come running. I bid Finn farewell, and now I only need to find one more friend. I have saved the most stubborn until last. Yeah, so definitely not going to chapter 5. I mean, we're going to stop there, but we're not going to continue. Alcar is waiting for me when I return to the wolf. It doesn't surprise me anymore when I catch his eye across the tavern where he's been nursing a mug of ale, clearly pouting. But the pout disappears when he sees me, surely counts for something, so the way his lips then instantly makes me think perhaps not. He gets up, movement slow and deliberate, and I remain by the door for a moment, wondering if, hilariously, he's somehow trying to not scare me. Do you need something? Yes, actually. Alcohol rubs at the back of his neck and gives me a critical once-over, frown deepening. Then he glances behind his shoulder at the sparsely populated tavern. The 3 or 4 people lounging about seem deeply engaged with their own conversation, but I nod in understanding. My room? Alcar barks a short, scornful laugh. Are you saying I'm trying to ambush you? He frowns at me, his tail flicking and then going still. His voice is low and steady when he answers. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not keen on taking chances right now. Tell me you agree. Much as I loathe to abandon the promise of a horizontal, not a bare rock surface to lie down on, close my eyes and try to process the day, he's right. And if Algar has any more information, any more at all, I want to hear it. I need to hear it. All right then, where? The woods. The deep, dark woods where I stumbled across a nasty youngling no more than a day ago? Algar rolls his eyes. I incline my head in understanding. I step inside, inviting him to take his lead to the door first. Alcar doesn't move immediately. He stays where he is, his arms crossed, and he regards me with a strange expression. It's not unreasonable, but almost as though he doesn't quite know what expression he should be making. Is something the matter? You're the one trusting motherfucker, aren't you? I scowl at him. You and your friends in this lovely little town aren't giving me a lot of choices. I expect another eye roll, a scoff, a dismissive wave. Instead, Alcar inclines his head, and there's something almost like guilt in his grimace. Let's go. Lunaris is a cold and lonely shell of its daylight form tonight. I have to almost run to keep up with how quickly, though sure-footedly, Alcar moves through the back alley. The chill sinks into my bones, and unbidden, I wish I wasn't here. I wish I wasn't following a half-werewolf into the dark unknown towards more mystery. Omen's confession is still ringing in my ears, as do so many other things. Did you know that Omen is Alcar shakes his head, his wolf ears flattening. Not here. Okay. Another turn and we step beyond the town's boundary. Trees loom above us, moonlight flooding through the bare branches to afford us sunlight. Alcar leads me a little further away, until the roofs of houses are barely visible, then turns to me. He jerks his chin towards the town. Alcar pauses for a moment, rubbing at his chin almost nervously, his eyes narrow, but then he shakes himself of it and continues. Well, clearly. Grimaces at the memory. Yeah. Look at his face. That doesn't mean you didn't hurt him. Alcar gives me a look. Press my lips. I press my lips together. Nothing pleasant, I know that much. Assuming the creature in question was allowed to escape with their life at all. But sometimes they are let go. Marks are too delicately tied to the order of things to be freely snuffed, as Alcar had so elegantly put it. But surely, if he wounded a hunter so terribly, he would still have been in the dungeons. Perhaps Finn or Ezra parleyed for your release, but Alcar is shaking his head. Well, there are always prosthetics. Alcar barks a sharp, bitter laugh and shakes his head, but neither he nor I find humor in it. I know. He's quiet for a moment, running a hand through his hair, messing with his clothes, fidgeting, nervous. I step back a pace to let him collect himself. No he's pushing him for anything now, not when he's already so openly telling me everything he knows. I didn't kill that hunter. I didn't. I wouldn't forget something like that, and I... enough to never do it again by accident. Never. Alcar's frown is deep, but his words are as quietly fierce as they are pleading. And what happened to that hunter? Do you not know who he is at all? Alcar scowls at me, though his tail switches back and forth in chagrin. And a small shiver goes down my spine. A hunter who isn't well remembered or well known vanishing so thoroughly? It won't be the first time. It won't be the last. My rank weighs like a burden on my soul. Hunters wield power after all, and with power comes politics. You may get far by being good at what you do and by keeping your head down to one degree or another, or you find a clandestine way to make your freeze, or you fuck up and you disappear. But what politics would this forgettable man have served? Lunaris doesn't suffer from intricate power balances. The Lieutenant General reigns supreme, and that's it. Does Lieutenant General Addington know of this? Yeah, I think he was the one campaigning for my release, so I owe him one, I guess. Of course. Addington most of all wouldn't have wanted to destroy the peace with local creatures. Until he has a surefire way of removing them with impunity anyhow, I suppose. I have another question. Were you aware that Omen comes from hell? Alcar frowns at me, then squints and snorts. Of course, where else would he be coming from? The general store? Oh, I love that. I hope he doesn't hear the sound of my teeth gnashing as loudly as I hear it, but with the way his ears suddenly stand up and the cackle, I know he's seen something. I meant, did you know that he's the son of the literal devil? You were the one who didn't ask. You were giving me a chance to, as I recall. Alcor crosses his arms and tosses his head. Excuse me. His grin is a temptation to put a fist right in his face. You were gone a whole night with him and you didn't ask? This is true. We were occupied doing... I started to halt. No, what we do is not for him to know. It isn't his business. Too busy admiring the tongue. Are you going to taunt me? Are you asking for a fight? This will be the note this night ends on. Alcor laughs and leans closer to whisper wickedly. Don't worry, everyone has the same reaction. That's not helpful. Then he chuckles and leans away, signifying that the conversation is at an end. See you tomorrow? Where are you going off to so soon? And excuse my nosiness, but you look like you've seen some hell yourself, not just the prince of hell. I frown. Am I that obviously rattled? But now that's been said, I do feel the building headache behind my eyes. Not from the ghost of James alone, but from, well, everything. Alcar is staring at me again, tilting his head this way and that, and making a show out of squinting at me. Yeah, definitely look forward. Fit for bed. Well, don't stray too far. I might need you tomorrow. I have a plan. Okay. When you need me, you need me. Until then, later. He disappears into the tree line as sure-footed as ever, and once again I'm left alone in this damn forest. I begin to make my way back to the wolf, my mind reeling again, as it always seems to be these days. Uh-oh, music's changed. So I feel hopeful. My plan seems possible. The little team of misfit helpers I've managed to assemble more than capable of carrying it out alongside me. Almost finished, I think. I smiled to myself, feeling a little lighter. Then, a rustle. Wait a minute, let me go back. I thought there was a noise. A rustle, something moving in the tree line, a little too close to the edge of town for my liking. We're going to investigate. I stepped forward, my footsteps quiet and assured as I advanced back towards the thicker forest. Another rustle, closer this time. Then it lumbers into view. It's hunched over and misshapen with long, gangly limbs that look out of place on its relatively normal-sized body. A single twisted horn grows out of its head and spots 3 eyes. The third seems new and underdeveloped, and it melts crudely above the existing left socket. It's covered in patches of scraggly fur and scales. In some places, its skin is entirely burned off. An amalgamation of mismatched parts and pieces that look like they don't belong. That cloudy gaze meets mine, and merely looking at it gives me a headache. There's a sweet demonic aura that makes my body beg me to look away. Then something hits me, something that makes me hesitate to draw my weapon. I cannot place this feeling of complacency, of ease, and nor can I fight it. Is this how my comrades are killed so easily? Does it have some kind of power over us that makes us become immobile? Or is it the dull ache of familiarity that settles in my gut that makes me pause? The feeling that I shouldn't harm it, that it deserves empathy, mercy. It opens its crooked jaw, melded sinew and mottled skin stretching and splitting to reveal a set of violent, jagged teeth. My body screams at me to fight, but my feet are firmly planted and stuck to the forest floor. My fingers don't move, my weapon still frustratingly safe in its holster. It takes a purposeful step towards me with a low, rattling groan, its teeth bared. My heart races as I stare into its unfocused eyes, all three of them blinking out of sequence. There's a loud ringing in my ears, and I've never felt like this before. My instincts are screaming, pulsing, dying for me to do something. Anything, and yet all I can apparently do is stare down my bitter end. Then something washes over me, and in a split second I gain perfect, blinding clarity. Run, James. The creature takes another step and howls, a broken, blood-curdling screech. Run! I listen. You're right. So this is where we choose who we're going to do, which romance we're going to do, if we're going to do any at all. So my body already knows where I need to go, where I want to go. My feet carry me towards Ezra's shop, towards where I hope Omen will be. I don't look back. I do hear the rustle of trees and the creature's maddened aura fading. It's heading back into the woods. The town is safe. For now. I round the corner, my feet sliding on the icy cobblestones. As if the universe knows exactly what I need at this moment, I spot Omen lurking outside the shop. He's pacing beneath the dully lit mage-light lantern. He spins when he hears my approaching footsteps, hands looking at his shoulders and framing his handsome face. Michelle, what is it? I grab his arms, and he steadies me while I catch my breath. I think I just saw the creature. He shakes his head, his brows furrowed, his tail curls around my waist. I nod, heeding his advice and inhaling a shuddering breath. I've never felt like this before. I'm all too used to encountering all the nasty things that go bump in the night. Nothing usually phases me, not after years of this. This was different. It did something to make me freeze, like I was paralyzed. Where is it now? Something flashes in his eyes, something powerful. My mind wanders to thoughts of what he might look like without that glamour, and I decide that this creature would be nothing compared to him. It retreated into the woods, unlucky to be alive. Oh, Omen, baby! He looks away, clearly trying to calm himself. Steal my gaze and stare him down. He's been through so much today. He revealed his truth to me, which without a doubt took guts. The fear must have felt that he wouldn't be accepted. I find myself inexplicably drawn to him over and over, wanting to be near him, wanting to see him smile. Even after what I've just seen tonight, all of my fear melts away now that I'm in his arms. Duh. His warmth sinks right down to my bones, stifling the cold bite of the Lunarian air. I should be scared of him. His strength and standing is one that many cannot match. But when he looks at me with his big brown eyes, I find it hard to see him as anything other than a man, just like any other, without a tail and teeth, of course. Omen, would you mind if I kissed you? He takes a tiny step forward, looking down at our touching toes, then back at me. I shift closer again, smiling as our noses brush. Then I kiss him. It's something chaste and fleeting, but meaningful all the same. His lips are as warm as the rest of him, soft and pliant against my own. His cheeks are a delightful shade of scarlet when we break apart, his eyes wide and shining in the gentle darkness. The smallest smile crosses his pink lips. I thank you. I stare at him, still holding him firmly. The silk of his shirt is so soft beneath my fingertips. Did you just thank me for kissing you? There's his throat, his tail twitching back and forth. Then a quick, sharp nod. Yes? I pursed my lips, wondering if I'll ever figure out this strange demon. Then think about how exciting it might be if I don't. Well, okay then. Oh, yeah. He laughs as his tail returns to my wrist. It coils slightly, squeezing once. Really though, thank you. You've made me feel that so at home. Gayon era. Is that your native tongue? I see the tip of his blackened tongue dart out briefly, as if he misconstrued my question, his eyes flashing red when he registers what I really meant. Yes, it is. I can teach you if you like. I slowly dropped my hands from his arms, lacing my fingers instead. I find myself getting used to his warmth. It's like standing too close to a fire when you've been freezing all day. Yes, I'd like that very much. Oh. I look up at the low-hanging moon, smiling to myself. Then I look at him. Everything will work out, won't it? No, my heart. My job might sometimes mean that I must kill without hesitation. An Omen is from the place where all evil is rooted. He's not cruel like I presume his sire to be. So I'm here to keep the people safe from harm. Omen is a perfect example of a creature who would otherwise be feared and widely hunted just because of his origin. Something he didn't choose. Instead, he chooses to be kind. I believe in you too. He smiles, his tail tight around my wrist. No longer are we alone, but we have a family. Everything is going to be okay. And that's the end of the chapter. Yay! Yay. This is getting into stuff that I have not heard before. I wouldn't say not seen because I have seen it, just not this particular version of it. So that's it for today. I'm getting tired. I will be back on Wednesday with Errant Kingdom. That will be the Night Rush Chapter 4. It'll be short, just like last Wednesday's was. And then next Sunday, we will continue to pick this up with Chapter 5. And that will probably just do Chapter 5 and then Chapter 6. And, each chapter individually. Depends on how long it takes me to get through the chapters. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I will be back on Wednesday.